Well, hello, Eternity Bible U. I am so glad to be able to enjoy this very first class with you in missional leadership. And so my name is Recap Gray, and I will be your instructor for the entirety of this semester, and that brings me a great deal of joy. This session will primarily just focus on introduction of all sorts, introduction of myself, introduction of the class, and introduction of the way we will function going forward. And so I want to begin with something that kind of helps summarize this idea of introduction, reading from the book of First Peter, and it begins like this. Petros Apostolos Iesou Christou Eklitis Parapirimis Diasporas Pontou Galatias Kappadokias Asias και Bithynias Καταπρογνώσιν Θεού Πατρός Ενακιάς μου νούματος εις υπακόην και ροντισμόν χάηματος Ιησού Χριστού Carisimin que irene pletin die. And that simply reads, Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to the chosen immigrants of the dispersion in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, based on the foreknowledge of God the Father, by the sanctification of the Spirit, for obedience to the blood sprinkling of Jesus Christ, grace to you and peace be multiplied. I wanted to begin with that, and it's a helpful way of even introducing myself and even some of my background. But before I get there, I did want to introduce the book of First Peter because this will be a very helpful text for our course. And I believe the book of First Peter is one of the most helpful books when it comes to how to live on mission in the 21st century. I know it wasn't written in the 21st century, but I believe it has a lot of timeless truths, as all of Scripture. But in a unique way, First Peter stands out as a book on how to live as what we would call immigrants or exiles in our day and age. So I want to tell you a little bit about this exile that you are looking at today. I have migrated all over the United States. My dad was in the military. We spent a lot of time in Louisiana, Texas, Alaska, even. Ended up on the East Coast where I met my now wife. We got married in 2009. We have four wonderful children. There's a 10-year gap in between them. So yeah, we were tripping, if you will. We had our children. I was, along with my wife, studied engineering at Temple University, where I majored in mechanical engineering, where she majored in computer and electrical engineering. And then in 2012, I was on staff at a church in Philadelphia, and I was taken to Malawi, Africa. I say taken because I wasn't really thinking I should have gone on a trip and all of this stuff, and I was fighting against it. But my mentor decided it would be the best, and I always wanted to, follow suit. And my wife also believed it would be an incredible idea. And little did I know that trip to Malawi, Africa would change my life. I preached my very first sermon there in a little dirt pitch in Malawi, Africa. You can actually see the picture right here in my office. And came back, knew I needed to go into full-time ministry. I had some really gracious elders who brought me on staff. I had a partnership with RTS, Reformed Theological Seminary, so I began taking classes there. And I then moved to pastor in Des Moines, Iowa, where I was, by the Lord's grace, given the opportunity to finish my studies at Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. So currently, I am pursuing a PhD in biblical studies through a school called Meacham School of Hayamount, which was started by a man named Vince Bantu. And then I am also taking those classes with Meacham School of Hayamount in partnership with a school called NAITS, which is North American Institute of Indigenous Theological Studies. And so I'm able to study along with some of the brilliant and brightest minds in the indigenous community, in the Christian indigenous community. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. My unique expertise, if you will, the background that I'm studying in is in the Gospel of John. And so New Testament scholarship is where I kind of find my niche. And for that reason, I love to nerd out in the Greek language. And so you'll probably get a little bit of overflow of that in these courses. So now that I got that out of the way, I can't wait to hear you all's introductions. I want to now introduce the class to you by way of just walking you through the syllabus. This class is Missional Leadership. And right at the top of the syllabus, it has my name and my email. I will try to get back within just a few hours if you have any questions or comments or concerns. So just let me know what your thoughts are, any questions you have via email, and I'll try to get back to you. Course description. This course is designed to introduce students to the lifestyle of missional leadership. Students will wrestle with the biblical missio Dei, the missional shape of the church it demands, and the role of a servant leader within the mission of God. Course objectives. Through a combination of reading, discussions, and coursework, students should engage the biblical idea of missio Dei, develop a biblical understanding of missional strategy, critically think through the leader-servant paradox found in Scripture, demonstrate servant leadership by developing a plan for missional project. We'll talk a little bit about that. Engage a biblical understanding of power and authority. And finally, critically think through the biblical roles of leadership within the local church context. So if I could summarize a lot of those course objectives, I would say it like this. In this class, we're going to be talking about two things. What is the mission of God's people? I mean, looking at a book literally called The Mission of God's People by Chris Wright. And then how does a leader participate in that mission? Those are the two primary things that this course is going to help you to do. Course requirements. All students must have read, do the schedule assignments. Please send your assignments in on time, and abide by Eternity Bible College's writing style guide. The reading for this course will be Chris Wright's Mission of God's People, as I already mentioned. The second book mentioned is Robert Quest's Uncommon Leadership. We might tap into this book a little bit, but this is not going to be our primary text. Our primary text will be Chris Wright's Mission of God's People and the book of 1 Peter, because I want you to see that some of the concepts that are brought out in Chris Wright's book are very well summarized in the book of 1 Peter. And so Robert Quest will maybe be touched on, but it will be primarily working through Chris Wright's Mission of God's People and the book of 1 Peter. Some optional books recommended, and I highly recommend these. Mission of God by Chris Wright. So this is basically Chris Wright's theological underpinning of the mission of God's people. So if you want the more robust academic biblical theology on the mission of God as he traces it literally from Genesis to Revelation, you can find that in the Mission of God. The Rise of Christianity is this book right here that I'm holding in front of you. Rise of Christianity by Rodney Stark. It was a sociologist's perspective on the history of the Christian church. Why did it expand? Why did it rapidly blow up? And what were some of the contributing factors that led to that? And it is very helpful, I think, and instructive for some of the things that we should be after in today's day and age. Like if we want to see the same kind of influence and explosion of the early church, like maybe we could go after some of the contributing factors that led to their rise as well. And then finally, Apostolic Church Planning by J.D. Payne. Love this book. One, because I like when an author is able to say something very succinct. It's a very thin book. But also because I think it's a very different kind of book when it comes to the idea of church planning. So I think that'll be a wonderful read for you. Discussion threads and Zoom meetings in order to foster discussion on the course material and to help you think through what you're learning. You will either participate in weekly online discussion threads or in a weekly Zoom meeting. Each week, I will post 2 to 3 discussion questions. And so if you're doing the written response, you must post a response to each of the discussion questions a few days before the class. That's to serve both the students who are doing Zoom and those who are going to participate in the discussion questions. And then use the following guidelines for your online discussion questions. That section is really just about proper etiquette as you engage in the discussion questions. So now we move to the project section. There's 2 projects, a personal mission project and then a book report. The book report is self-explanatory. It's just 3 to 4 pages explaining some key takeaways from some of the one of the books that are recommended or required in the course. But then the personal mission project, this I'm really excited about. And so Chris Wright makes the helpful distinction between mission of God and mission that God's people participate in. In 5 to 6 pages, explain your sense of the mission of God and how that fuels the particular missions field you feel called to. Include a personal mission statement and how that mission fits into the larger mission. Be sure to reference Chris Wright and other helpful works in your paper. Also include at least one example of a historical current figure who has lived out or is living out this mission that serves you. Put simply, I want to see your understanding of the mission of God, the Missio Dei in general, and then I want you to be able to connect your particular and specific sense of calling in whatever mission field that might be, whether it's the environment, whether it's the area of the unborn or justice issues as it relates to this nation and race, whatever that specific and unique niche of missions that you feel called to, connect it to the Missio Dei. And then give just one example of somebody who you see or have seen historically, they can have passed already, who is kind of a model for you in your particular missions field. The rest that we can look at will be just kind of looking at the way the course works. And so every week you'll have, you can find all of this in the modules. You'll have a video of some sort, maybe myself or some other video I found that would be very helpful on that particular class. You can obviously participate in the Zoom meeting. I encourage you to participate in the Zoom meeting if possible, because those conversations are incredible. But also the discussion questions are incredible online as well. And so really excited to hear you guys interact in that streamline as well. So you'll find discussion questions. And then, and again, if you participate in the Zoom meeting, you simply just need to write, I participated in the Zoom meeting, and that will take care of those discussion questions. And then you will see your reading assignment, whatever that reading assignment is for the week. So pretty straightforward class for you. And so I pray that since it is simple and straightforward, you'll be able to really enjoy this class and the way in which I believe that it will help to form and shape your sense of mission. Look forward to seeing you guys in person or via Zoom, and can't wait to begin this journey with you. Take care.